I think that should give us courage.
Exposure to other people's perspectives.
It's moving us in a good direction.
Eli Steele, welcome to Conversations with Peter Boghossian. How are you?
I'm great, and thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Yeah, my pleasure. I absolutely loved your film, and that's the fact of the matter. Eli is a filmmaker who's written, produced several critically acclaimed films, and his work is fantastic. And without further ado, I just like to show people the trailer, and then we'll talk about the film.
I hope your family dies and burns in hell. What's your number? Show me your arm.
It is a swastika.
I'm not sure why. That is very upsetting.
Anti-Semitic.
Anti-Semitism.
It's discriminating.
Acknowledge the white fragility in the room and do better.
Many high schools across America placed racial equity before merit.
Focused president thinks there are too many Asians.
Welcome to our Wednesday, November 15, 2023 board meeting.
That's what socialist America.
Ethnic studies jumped the lab into the larger society, so they can take their ideas about settler colonialism and they can indoctrinate a generation of activists.
Radical figures as the heroes.
I believe Israel has no right to exist.
You don't learn about Martin Luther King Jr.
I believe the United States has no right to exist.
Black people are faster than white people.
Racial equity.
African American students, only 10% can pass the standardized test.
Racial equity.
Ethnic studies as a graduation requirement.
Racial equity.
We are not doing this.
Monitoring anything as having no or direction.
Racial equity.
I'm brown, but I have white values.
What does it mean to be black?
If we lose the opportunity that the United States provide, we have nothing.
That's why Jews are hated so much. We refuse to be victims.
We've forgotten to celebrate what we have in common. We are Americans.
But are we?
Powerful film, powerful film. Why did you make the film?
We actually did not intend to make this film, this actual film. I was contacted by parents in the Bay Area in, I would say, August of 2023, who were bothered by the fact that honor classes would be removed behind the back from their kids' public high school. And this is the Bay Area, one of the wealthiest, it's one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in the Bay Area. And so at first I was kind of like, okay, well, this story has been kind of done before. As you know, Peter, I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, so you know that they're kind of late to the game. That was my first thought.
Right.
But, okay, finally you guys woke up. But we kept talking, and then we found an interesting angle that Stanford University was actually producing a lot of these teachers who were then going into the local Bay Area school with their woke ideology. So I said, oh, that's interesting. That could be something that could be new. And then October 7th happened. And that's when we realized, oh, wait a minute. Okay, so not only are they removing honor classes for the last 8 years, it would be like 1 or 2 per year. And that adds up. But they were also injecting liberated ethnic studies ideology, not the class, but the ideology into classes like business, algebra, almost everything. It should be injected. Then, and then, bam, all of a sudden, the parents are talking about anti-Semitism. And so I kind of wonder, is there a connection between the Trinity? Honor classes be removed, ethnic studies be injected, which define the Jew as the oppressor because the Jew is white. And then the why is the anti-Semitism. And so that's what started this whole documentary.
Wow, that's quite a path. When Claudine Gay went before Congress and testified, Were you surprised by her failure to condemn? Were you surprised by that testimony?
Not really.
I wasn't either.
No, I was because that is the path that you take if you choose the path of race as your means to power. Because if you're usually race as your means to power, you are part of that liberation ideology, which reduces everybody to the oppressed versus the oppressor. That's where we have BIPOC. That's why we should keep coming up with all these names. And so she knew that she be decent, should be truthful, should be fully equal. In other words, apply the American justice system, the American principle to all people equally. She betrayed her ideology. She betrayed what gave her power in the first place, what lifted her up to Harvard. And there's no way that she should go against that.
Yeah, I always thought that it was really unfortunate that she just didn't say right from the beginning, you know what? I just don't like Jews. We don't like them. We just don't like them. I mean, if she had said that, I mean, that would have caused a different kind of furor. But at least she would have been honest about if, and then she would describe or she would explain why she didn't like Jews. Okay, so there's so much going on in this conversation. We have the whole documentary that exposes virulent Jew hatred and how it's institutionalized in the schools. We have people who are completely unaware of this problem. We have the individuals who are the targets of this hatred, racial hatred. We have something else playing out right now as the backdrop of this conversation. We have Biden, who's allegedly quite ill. We have Trump, someone's just tried to assassinate him. A lot of people are saying, calling it a conspiracy, what have you. We'll bracket that because I have not germane. It's interesting, but it's not germane to the conversation. What do you think of this idea that people are now talking about getting Kamala Harris? And this relates to the film directly, but people are now talking about Kamala Harris or Kamala Harris. What the fuck is her name again? I can't even pronounce her name. Reed, what's her name again? We have to edit this out.
Kamala.
Kamala, is that it? So Reed, edit that out. Kamala Harris as being Biden's successor. What do you think about that in terms of a DEI hire? As Biden explicitly said, we're going to have I'm going to pick a black woman. He said that about the Supreme Court nominee, and he said that about his VP. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think I think there's two things going on. I think there's the individual path. So Kamala Harris obviously bears responsibility for going on that path of race, of allowing her race to be used. And it ever happened, and at the same time in America, we've created this system where we say the only way to better our country is to create a new racial order, a new system of racial engineering, and we're going to racially engineer our way to diversity. So you've got two forces going on. You've got the individual, and then you've got the what I kind of call the real systemic racism. Because I mean, when Joe Biden nominated a black woman to the Supreme Court, you're basically telling that woman you're here because you're black, and
Correct.
that obscures the individual. And she may be worthy of marriage. We may not like her views, but she may be the best of her view of her job. But we don't know because it's been compromised, and so that's a big thing with Kamala Harris. And so that's why there is this stench of I think I would probably say totalitarianism, where if you don't vote for Kamala Harris, you are an evil person. You are a racist. That's my father's idea of white guilt comes into play. That's why it's an invisible force. It is so powerful, but it's degrees that moves everything. And that's what they're saying to you. You better fall in line and vote for Kamala Harris. Who you vote for? Trump? JD Van? The all white boy club. And so that's where they reduce the election to. And that's what the left has done. It created this system so now we can't even look at people as individual. We can't even say, okay, because I mean, I'm looking at JD Van. Do I agree with everything that he does? No. Trump, no. But who does? I mean, who agrees with even the favorite president we all have some disagreement with? But the point here is we're not allowed to do that. Race, immutable characteristics dominate everything.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the odd responses to that, I was heavily involved in the atheist movement, the new atheist movement for years. And if you look at JD Vance's X feed or Twitter feed, the first thing, literally the first thing, if you could pull that up, that'd be appreciated, is Christian. That's it. And yet I know so many atheists who are gung-ho and going to vote for him. Well, to vote for the ticket, not vote for him. But that would have been absolutely unthinkable, completely unthinkable 10 years ago. There it is. Christian, husband, dad, U.S. Senate. So it just goes to show that things have changed. Could you unpack, please, the idea of white guilt a little bit for us?
In the basic definition of white guilt, it is not according to my father, this is his idea. His name is Shelby Steele. He has a book, came out in 2007. Actually, I think I have it right here. White guilt. And the idea is it's not actual guilt, like the guilt of a conscience. Rather, it is the fear of being seen as a racist. It is the fear of being stigmatized as a racist because your white skin is linked to the history of oppression. It is linked to colonialism, slavery, segregation, everything that the Western world has done. That's where it's basically the power of liberation ideology. Nobody really talks about that aspect, but how does liberation ideology advance? By charging you with racism, you back up and advance it. And it charges you with more racism, you back up and advances. That's why but it really it's a complicated idea. But at its core, it is the stigmatization, the fear of being stigmatized as a racist, which
That's
you get
fascinating.
fired from your job.
Yeah. And every time somebody remains silent in the face of that, it advances, and not only does it take more ground, but the body count racks up. Like it does more damage and it hurts more people because it's Robin DiAngelo. If there's ever a lightweight thinker, to say the least, that's probably the most charitable thing you can say about her. She was one, and she advanced some pretty crazy ideas. The Kafka traps for you're a racist. No, I'm not. That's proof of your racism, but that doesn't work with anything else, like accusing someone of being a tomato or something. You're a tomato. No, I'm not. That's proof you're a tomato. How do you? So when you go back to this film now, were you surprised at what you found in terms of the? And just for the record, I personally don't like the word anti-Semitism. I like Jew hatred much better. I think it's a more specific term. Because one of the reasons is because people weasel around and say, well, I'm, an Arab, I'm a Semitic people. How could I hate myself? Were you surprised by the Jew hatred that you found in the schools? Was that like, oh my gosh?
Yes and no. I think I was there more disappointed. I went to school. I'm from the Bay Area originally. So I went to school about 20 miles south of the Menlo Atherton neighborhood. For those who don't know, Menlo Atherton is like the wealthiest neighborhood in the Bay Area. I used to ride my bike through those. You see these huge houses. It's like where the Golden State Warriors live. It's where all the billionaires live. I grew up in a very more working class, construction, police officers type of neighborhood in San Jose. And back then, I mean, there was racism, there was stuff back then, but it was not to the degree of today. It was much more like you was just started with a fish bite. You would take it out, it would be done. And over it, the schools were very good quality. And now as you see there, cattiness of the anti-Semitism, the Instagram, where you hide it behind your phone and sending messages, but or throwing snide remarks to somebody across the hallway, which has been reported to me by students. And then it was just a disappointment because we've had when the anti-bully campaign started in the 90s. So you've had diversity, you've had the anti-bullying campaign, you've had all of this stuff, and it completely failed. I mean, kids. I mean, I have two kids. I have two teenagers. I look at the chat. My God. Okay, maybe you'll say the N word in school, but they're saying the N word. They're saying Hispanic, Latino slur. They're saying gay slur. It's all happening on your phone. Those all happening underground. And so I think with the Bay Area and with October 7, it jumped out. The anti-Jew hate or anti-Semitism jumped out.
Yeah.
And became okay. It was legitimate because what Hamas did was legitimate. Because under liberation ideology, Hamas pretty very simply are brown people. Jews are white. Brown people are part of the third world, and they're rising up against the oppression. That's why they were accused Israel of apartheid, of genocide, of everything, because they're saying that sort of goes back to colonialism, slavery, segregation. They evoke all that imagery. And it got to the point that there's a T-shirt that we show in the film, Chloe Gentile Montgomery, a graduate of Stanford School of Education. And so this is very significant because you would think you go to Stanford University. Remember, Stanford University was the first university to remove Russian civilization in the late 80s. Jesse Jackson came to campus. They removed the study of Russian civilization. Now, today, that teacher who graduates from the School of Education is teaching in the classroom to high school students that Hamas were a people from Palestine who shot at soldiers and also some civilians, which is completely not true. They went after the civilian, that the UN declared Israel to be illegal. And on. There's maybe 5 more lines that I'm aware of. There's actually a lot more documentation that's even come out yet because of we question. So my point is just to kind of wrap up on this. My point here is that was the most disappointing thing. Just the Stanford University allow a student to graduate not thinking it's okay to lie. To bond up our minds in the classroom. You're talking about people who really don't, a lot of them don't understand the Israel-Palestinian conflict. They just don't. And you tell them this back. You're the teacher, you're a position of power, of authority. And that's a very dangerous thing to do. And that's how you get, that's how you breed anti-Semitism, anti-Jewishism.
Yeah, so I've often argued, long predating the culture war, that the main thing we need to, the main institution, if I could wave a wand and only fix one institution in this country, that would be quite something, given that they're almost all universally broken. It would be the wholesale teaching of the wholesale quote unquote education indoctrination of teachers who go to teach K through 12. And many of whom become educational administrators in colleges and universities. We put out a nice series with Lyle Asher by that, but we have a system in which wholesale teachers are being indoctrinated, and part and parcel of that ideology, you're correct in that analysis of looking at things in terms of oppressor and oppressed, and Israel is the oppressor, and then Jews are part of that. And it's fascinating to me. It's both fascinating and horrifying to see that rise up again. Maybe this is just Pollyanna, or I'm just super naivete. I don't know, but I just didn't think that we would see the conspicuousness of this sickness rise up again. And I remember when I was in London, Reed and I were in London, we saw the posters from the people who were kidnapped, like ripped down. And I just thought that was, and we would go to the rallies, and we would say, I would ask people, I came up with the question, what do you want the world to know? Because it was a very unthreatening question to people, and they're there protesting. So I don't know, we came up with the question, and almost everybody would answer that particular question. But when you really dug down, I don't think the vast majority of those people, yeah, there you go. I don't think the vast majority of those people could have picked, of course, if they're from the region, they could have, but the vast majority of people who are not from that region could have pointed to it on a map. Like if you gave them a blank map and said, point to like, where's Jordan, where's Iraq, where's Iran, where's Israel, where's Saudi Arabia, I don't think they could have done it. I'd love to test that hypothesis, though.
You should.
What is the? I know that would be kind of funny, but people then would say, "Well, you've self-selected out. You didn't put the, everybody on." What's been the reaction to the film? Because it is a rather, to put it mildly, spicy film. What's been the reaction?
We've had a variety of them. I think overall, people really enjoy the film. They're thankful that the film come out. A reason why I made the film was to give the parents a voice, because the school boards, the Korea Union High School District School Board has stonewalled the parent, has minimized the parent's concern. And Diana, who is the main subject in the film, has been a fierce fighter, has been trying to get answers from the board. And it's almost comical how she's been treated. And so I think this film gave her power. It gave her the ability to kind of go over the head. And so I think that's been a good reaction from that. The reaction from the school district stuff was interesting. So we the first screening that we had was March 5th in Menlo Park, which is about a mile away from the high school, the main high school that we feature. We invited the board members, we invited the principal, we invited a variety of people. The school newspaper, who I used footage from in my documentary, asked me for 3 tickets. We gave it to them. They never showed up. Well, they never reached a yes, but they never responded. I'm coming to another point there. And so we screened the film. It goes really well. People are excited by it. A lot of the locals were happy with the film. We're thankful for it. On Monday, that was Saturday, on Monday, the principal of Menlo Atherton High, who had not seen the film, he's only seen the trailer. So he's basically everything on the trailer, but he's sending the email out to the staff, to the teachers, everybody say, oh yeah, you guys have heard that this ridiculous piece of propaganda that's out there. This is ridiculous. It's just, it's just completely bad mouth here, and all that stuff. And we're like, okay, but you never saw the film, so what's your responsibility as an educator?
Film.
Yeah, what kind of lesson are you teaching? And we still gave documentation, but the school board, all of them were very obsessed with the film. They kept talking about the film. How can we steer? They called it a dangerous film. They were all of this stuff. And we're like, but the film is just, look, all we're doing is showing what you did. That's what you don't like. You don't like it because we showed you what you did. We're not really offering our own conclusion. We're showing you that you put the slides up. We're showing you at the board meeting completely, manipulate the hearing to come to the conclusion that you want. And we're showing the fact that you don't really offer any solution for the poor performing school. We're showing all of that, so they don't like that. And what they did not like was the lack of control. They want to control the narrative. And so that's what we have to do as Americans. That's why we call killing America. Because what I'm basically saying is we have to stand up as Americans. We have to fight for that narrative. We have to speak out and not let them have total control. And that was the reaction. The other reaction that was very interesting and perhaps most surprising was the Jewish reaction. So at first, the JCC's Jewish Community Centers, which is a huge organization, they usually have buildings that are like a block big, like in prime real estate, like San Francisco, big organization. We're excited. Great, a film on anti-Semitism. Then they started the film. They started with anti-DEI. And many of the organizations have been pro-DEI. So they were caught.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they were caught. Oh, but my view is that anti-Semitism is a symptom. The cause is DEI, which will make you the point
Oh,
in
of
the
course.
film.
Yeah,
And they
yeah,
don't. They
yeah.
didn't want that. They go, "Oh my God, no, we can't have that." So then they started backing off. And my favorite story is the one from San Francisco, the JTC. They said, "Oh, because we basically said if we can't screen the film there in the summer, how about the fall? How about the holidays? How about winter? How about next spring? Basically, just give us a day and show the film there." And they said, "Fine, you should show it, but it cost you $10,000. $10,000 to screen a film that's 38 minutes. That's how much they wanted to charge." And so that shows you the reason that a lot of Jewish people. I'm not surprised, but if my maternal side Holocaust survivor, my grandfather was a Holocaust survivor. He was betrayed by Jews in the war, so he's always had a little bit like that. That's why we have such an anti-tribal stance in our family, because we know that the closest tribal people may not be your true friend. And so that's why I've always, I've never been a tribal person, and certainly not with these Jews, because, in my opinion, they're upholding the very system that hates them, and they're completely blind to it. But they take the money.
So I just want to make sure that I understand this. So they are supporting DEI, and they're afraid if people saw the film that they would understand that buttressing a lot of Jew hatred at its core was DEI.
Exactly.
And so they were conflicting. And so what they did was, as their commitment to, that's really interesting in a sense, because that would mean that their commitment to DEI weighed more than their commitment to Jewishness or Jewish or kind of the survival of their people. That's
or
fascinating to me.
American
That's
value, yeah, or American
the
value.
yeah. Boy, talk about I wrote this about this in my first book briefly, about a parasitic, and Gad Sad's written about this. Talking about a parasitic value that latches its way on it and corrupts something. Wow, that's fascinating to me. Have any of these people changed their tune, or just said, "Oh wow, we were really wrong about this DEI stuff," or maybe because go ahead.
Yeah, I think these days, maybe because of social media, because so much of what we say is public record, that people are not really to change their minds and stuff like that. But I'll give you an example. I actually did a short documentary in Coronado, which is off of San Diego. It's not really an island, but it's like an island off of San Diego. It was the news had painted the all-white basketball team won the state championship against a predominantly Latino high school, and people from Coronado threw tortilla in the air again. This was all against the Latino. We're all over. I was like, "Oh man, that's horrible." I've been to Coronado; it's a beautiful place. Turned out it was not true. There was a lot more to the story. And you should, if you Google my name and Coronado, you should read the article, and there's a documentary too. But the ADL in San Diego jumped in. They called the Coronado basketball team, which actually is multiracial. They call them racist. They call them perpetrator. They call them everything, and threw them under the bus without any due process. Why? Because they have a program they called it's the ADL program that basically is something like Stay No Hate, or it's an anti-hatred campaign. Yeah, if you look up ADL or something, so basically grounded in DEI. It grounded in all of it. The ADL was trying to get the program into all these schools. So they threw the basketball team, a state championship team, under the bus to she would bank their own cars and make money off of it. Yeah, that's it. And she made money off of it. And then so that's what they've been doing for the last several years. And then October Summit happened. Are you telling me that you did not know that you were playing with fire? You're telling me that you did not know you thought what happened in that parade in Chicago where they threw those Jewish gay parade where they threw them out. They were signed all along. And you're telling me that you didn't pay attention to it. No, you're going after money. You use your race. You use your identity as money and power. And then anti-Semitism blows up. And then you're like, oh, geez, you're actually part of it. The ADL was part of it. And now they want to, come back.
That's that must be a fascinating realization for a lot of people. I wonder when they're confronted with it now, what is their response? Would their response be, geez, we pushed this DEI stuff and we didn't realize how toxic it was and how it interfered with our other causes? Or is it denial? Or is it gaslighting? I never believed it anyway. I never believed any of the stuff. I mean, I wonder what the response would be subsequent to this.
I'm stunned by one thing. My mother's Jewish. My mother's a daughter of Holocaust survivor. She was always interested in the civil rights movement because she knew what happened to her parents living in New York City. My mom was a New York City girl, Lower East Side. I mean, she grew up in the city. So she was always wanting to help me be in the movement. And she met my father by joining the local civil rights organization on campus. But here's the thing that makes my mother different from many Jews is that's my grandparents, my father's grandparents. My mother was never based her identity on civil rights. It was always I'm gonna do the right thing, but it was never her identity. I find for a lot of Jews today, this is something I'm kind of thinking about these days. But a lot of Jews will come to me and tell me, oh, it's so important that we have the connection to the civil rights. Why are so many Black people, why are the Black Lives Matter people not supporting us? We support them. So for some reason, in the Jewish mind, the civil rights issue is so powerful. It's part of their identity. And I kind of want to go like this. You understand that a lot of Black people don't think this way. You're not part of the calculation. I never really hear Black people talk about the Jewish allies. If anything, I probably hear more anti-Semitism. But for the Jews, they believe doing something for the Black is the mishpah, is the good thing. And that somehow they need to wake up to the reality they're not working. They're not helping Black people in the right way. They're helping the wrong Black people. Black Lives Matter, what have they done? And so you want to give them money, great, but you're giving money so they can go buy a house? I mean, come on. And so I think that's where there's a lot of denial. And so I think one part of what they want to do is they go, okay, you know what? We didn't do DEI right. Let's do DEI light. Let's do ethnic studies light. But we're going to start playing around with race. Well, come on. I mean, you got to know that, okay, I'm going to say one quick story, but I know you don't like the word anti-Semitism, but I think it's a powerful word for one reason. It came about in the 1870s, at the 1879 by the Germans, because we had just gone through the Enlightenment, the age of reason, all of that. It became uncouth to target the religion. So they needed another way to lock the Jew into that box. And so they came up with race. And where did they get the idea of race from? From America. We just bought a lot of bad ideas because we had slavery, we had all of this. So they kind of shipped the idea from America. And so that's why this is a direct line to all of this. And so that's why today anti-Semitism is a racial power. It's more of a racial power than religious power. Because under the old anti-Judaism, if you converted to Christianity, you'd be accepted as a Christian. Under race, you cannot leave. You are forever a Jew. And so I think these Jews need to understand that history and remember that history, because that history has not been beneficial Jewish people. So why would you give that any power?
Yeah, my mentor told me when he was interned in Buchenwald that then the younger Nazis looked at being Jewish as a blood thing, mit Judenblut, and the older Nazis looked at it as a religion. So while the older Nazis were cruel, they were nowhere near as cruel as the younger Nazis. And that was fascinating to me on multiple levels. So one of the things, the words that was in the film that came up that I'd like to talk to you about is, what is the role that equity plays in this mindset? And I will say that I've been surprised, Eli, and I've been disappointed, and I've been really surprised to the point of almost being shocked at how we can talk about. And for years, I was just constantly getting email from my kids' school about equity. And I was just shocked that like literally nobody, now Bill Eckerman and all these people have kind of jumped on this bandwagon, but like, well, where were you when all these, where were you when the whole society is consumed in equity? Did it never occur to you to just say, oh, well, what do you mean by that? Like, I mean, the most basic of all questions. Oh, well, geez, well, what do you mean by equity? Or how is equity different from equality? You know, I mean, very kind of banal, pedestrian questions. So I was wondering if, and it is a theme that comes up, and I was wondering if you could talk about it, equity in regard to maybe anti-Semitism or Jew hatred, however you want to frame it, or preferably, and what you think the role of equity plays in this whole catastrophe.
Yeah, that's a great question. When you were talking, I thought of Peggy McIntosh, and Peggy
the
McIntosh.
knapsack.
Yeah, she's the one that unpacking the knapsack of white privilege.
Yeah.
She's basically, I guess, the grandmother of white privilege. I interviewed her at the White Privilege Conference. I still have the interview somewhere.
White Privilege Conference. You just can't make it up.
She thought that was. She thought I was dumb. She thought I was dumb after the interview. She said, "You need to educate yourself some more."
Yeah.
But she said a phrase which was interesting. Was she said, "Imagine a round table, and everybody's seated at this round table, and you got the whites up here. Well, we got to bring them down to the table." Well, okay, you're bringing them down to the table, but you're not bringing the people up. You're bringing them down to the table. So that was her. This was like maybe 2014, 2015, so almost 9 years ago. So I think equity is a tool of, it's one of those, ideology. This is one thing maybe. If you live in ideology, you're not really responsible for the meaning of your words. You are more responsible for the action. So equity is just a accusation. It's basically a tool of white guilt. It's an accusation. How could you not want equity? If we have 5% Black people, they should be 5% at the university. How could you object to that? And so my counter argument is, well, it should be 100%. It should be 5. Like, why would you limit Black people to 5%? It should be 100. But equity is a tool that allows people to push the public back in order to advance wherever towards the ideology, whether it's really truly to overthrow the system, to bring down the system, to
system.
Yeah, I mean, they get,
it's always the system.
Absolutely, because we live in, I mean, part of at the equity is also related to freedom. Because America is a scary country. But you know what? It attracts historically the most brave people, because you get on a ship, you go across, you leave your homeland, you leave your security because you got a dream or something. You want a better life. You want to be able to practice your religion. You want to build a business. You want to do something. A show is always attracted very strong people who were not afraid of freedom. And I think that since then we become a very wealthy, very spoiled country. As we have people that are born into freedom, they necessarily do not appreciate it. They don't know what to do with it. They fear it. They fear putting themselves to task. So they become ideologue. I would think you'd find very smart people be ideologue. My father is not going to be an ideologue. He's a free thinker. Thomas Sowell is a free thinker. I mean, everybody that you admire, almost every writer, should be a free thinker of some sort. You may not agree with them, but you give them credit for developing the argument, and that is freedom. And so I think that equity is a way, it's a prison. It's like a jail that you should go into and then try to enforce that upon everybody else. It's a way for you to say, this is my new life. Yeah. Because freedom is not equal. Freedom, I come to Hollywood. Okay, I didn't quite do my dream of doing big movies that I wanted to do. But that was my chance of freedom. That was my thing. I found my own path in documentary. But that's the path that I'm in. That's my father started off wanting to be a novelist. He did not want to be a pilot, but then that's where life took him. But he owns that path. I own my own path. You own your own path. And that's the power. And so I think equity is just this whole ideology. It's just a way to go into something that is predetermined, something that gives you power easily. You don't have to really earn it. That's where they all speak the same.
And it's something that, they have a kind of a tone as well. They have a kind of like if you saw that video we did of confrontation from PSU, they have a tone they speak with. But, it's interesting to me. I've been really, I don't know, for a long time now, I would think, boy, imagine if you were Asian and you're denied application, you're denied entrance to schools, even though you outperform most people. And the data for that is overwhelming, your test scores, your grades, etc. What the feeling of resentment would be, or maybe even rage. Or I remember a few years ago when, the Stop Asian Hate campaign, when we would see almost invariably young Black men assaulting Asians, particularly Asian women. And we were told that was white supremacy. I just remember that detonating in my brain and thinking, like, how can I possibly explain this literature to other people? Because I've often said that the problem with this ideology is why people don't believe it is because it's just too crazy, and nobody would think that people actually believe this. So if it were a little less crazy, more people would say, oh my God, that's horrific. That's just terrible. And the assaulting Asians, I find all of this stuff is just linked together. And, your film, Killing America, Jew hatred, Asians, Hamas, it's all linked together in a network of parallel. I don't even know how to I don't even know what the right adjective would be without being too floral. But it's deeply disturbing, and I wonder when I think of your film, like, if the school board is watching that film and they're not being honest about it, they're denying it. They're just, I mean, wouldn't the right response to that film, like, wow, if this is really the case, we need to fix it. Like, we need to look at if we have a problem. I mean, certainly if it were about African Americans, you would say that. Like, if it were even a fraction of that, people would say, wow, if this is a problem, we need to get to the bottom of this and fix it. Well, why wouldn't you say that if the problem was about Jews or Samoans or anybody, midgets or something, whoever was being discriminated against? Why wouldn't you say the same thing? Well, the reason is because you don't believe that people should be treated equally by your institutions. So then you should just say that. Well, we don't think Jews and Asians should be treated equally. Fuck them. I mean, wouldn't that would just be a much more honest way to approach the problem rather than just to lie about it?
Yeah. I think a fundamental problem here with wokeism, identity politics, uh, anything is when you reduce people to race or immutable characteristics. If you just look at me as a deaf person, I mean, I've got a cochlear implant. If you just then you go through stereotype. I'm not a human being anymore. And
Right.
so if you operate under that, right, because you say equity basically means you reduce people to the immutable characteristic and see how many people you have in the group. Are they all equal between race groups? That's how you're thinking about these things. Because in Menlo Atherton High School, sticks pretty close to the 101 freeway. If you know the demographic, if you know the layout of the land. If you go to the rest of Menlo Atherton, the hill, beautiful home, wealthy family. If you go across the freeway, you're in East Palo Alto. And when I was living in that area, East Palo Alto was the historically black neighborhood. Now it's mostly Latino, working class. Houses still there cost over $500,000. Just where the land is. Facebook is actually right behind East Palo Alto, the new headquarters.
Yeah.
It's right behind there. And so in that school, so you have Facebook, you have a considerable wealth in that neighborhood, even though it's working class. Parents may have a work job, whatever it is. But that school, that feeds into the high school, that middle school, it produces kids. 13% he read on grade level, 6% he read do math on grade level. On the other side, it's in the 80% for over 80% for both. And then you bring this huge gap, the 8-year gap between some of the students is an 8-year gap. And then you want to get rid of honors, you want to get rid of all the the ladders of opportunity and put all these kids in one class and say that equitable. That's what you do. Well, you study your stuff up as disaster. You're thinking that, okay, well, we're going to have the smart kids teach the not the white kids. We're going to make them do the work for us. Like, it's all backfiring because when you live in a world of race, my father will always say that a world of race with immutable characteristics, you will always miss the problem. Race is your power. You will never give up that power because that's how you got to where you are. Those who admit that you are wrong and say, oh my God, we need a human solution. We need to go into East Palo Alto and we need to find out what is the problem. They spend more money per pupil in that school. They have a $12 million foundation in that school. They have San Francisco Giants coming down and supporting that school. Is it a parent? Is it a student? Is it a teacher? Is it the ideology? I think it's a combo of everything. But they refuse to do that. They refuse to do that. So they find the answers within the ideology. And so I'm saying,
Yeah,
when you
that's
keep looking for
interesting.
the answers within that ideology, well, then, that's why you get hatred. You get hatred because you began this thing by asking about that Asian who scored perfect. Scored. Well, he's
Yeah.
angry. Yeah, because he is caught within that system. They go, well, he's Asian, so we're going to take 400 points off of his SDC. You're going to take 400 points off of his SDC in the mission. That's robbery.
Oh, just
I
too
mean, that's
crazy.
robbery. You're robbing merit for ideology. But again,
Totally.
when people are, yeah, and so that's why we can't be surprised when the what kind of person is the ideal law. That's why America is such a great country because it's all about principle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Reed and I were in Los Angeles and we were trying to get interviews from people. Terrible place to get interviews from people. Terrible place. But
That's really,
yeah, we were at a gay pride parade and I don't know, it's just a bad context for it. But anyway, when we were there, we were we had no agenda. We're just walking up and down the street. We didn't have any particular place in mind, but we came across a Planned Parenthood, and there were 3 young black kids. I don't know how old they were, but they just picked everything up on the table and they just threw it in the air, and they just basically just ransacked the place. They were just going around booth to booth and ransacking the place. And a booth at the LA Pride for Planned Parenthood. That's the one we saw. And the woman, Reed, did you get that on film, by the way? I don't know if you get that. No, he didn't get that on film. Okay. But I remember that there were two women seated at the Planned Parenthood station. And instead of saying, hey, please don't do that or stop, they just sat there. And then they got mad at us. They said, don't record this. You mad at us. We're just standing there. We didn't do anything. But instead of like saying, and I told Reed, and I could totally be wrong about this, and I want your take on this. I think if they were white, they might have said something to them.
Yeah. I agree with that. And black people, they know. I mean, they know that, because remember, my father's phrase is "white guilt is black power."
Yeah.
So now
I heard, yeah.
Yeah, so it's power. So they know they can get away with it.
It's a kind of empowering. You see that a little bit, excuse me, with the Ferguson effect, where police officers don't want to be accused of being racist, and so they scale back going into black neighborhoods, and then the consequence of that is the black crime rates, specifically the murder rates, go up. I heard a horrific story from a guy. I'm a little hesitant to say this story, but I heard but I'll tell you the story. So, and I don't know these guys. I was in the locker room when they told us, in the jiu-jitsu locker room. So those like body cams that the police have that are, so evidently these guys were on a stakeout, like in the movies where they're looking at someone's, I don't know, he didn't go into details in the story, but so on their block and so they have these body cams that are totally on all the time. On their block, it came out, there's an active shooting in progress. And so they, got all this stuff and they started to run down the stairs. Evidently they run like, I don't know, 2-3 floors. I don't really know. He didn't say, but, and now remember, they're being recorded for this, right? With their cameras are on. And then it came across the radio that the shooter is a black male. And the moment that came on, they looked at each other and they said, something is going to happen with the stakeout. We can't go now because they're being recorded. So what they were really doing is saying, we're afraid if we go down there and we arrest this guy, we might be considered racist, or God forbid there's a shooting and we have to shoot him. Then, we'll be doxxed and our lives will be, forget our career, our whole lives will be gone. We could go to prison. So instead of that, they just are like, well, something's happened on the stakeout. And the interesting thing to me about that story was, the story is interesting in many ways, but it speaks, I think, to what you're saying, that the race then becomes the power. And then the consequence of that is that more people die, right? The consequence of that is like the defunding of the police in Portland, or the not hiring new police. It's not guys like me who are middle-class white guys who are being shot. It's young African-American kids who are being shot. And so they're trying to help people, like when Mayor Ted Wheeler of Portland did away with the gang reduction task force, because they found out that more African Americans were having their guns targeted or taken away than other groups, and they concluded that this was racist. So when they did away with it, that there was a spike in homicides among that target demographic. But they're not targeting the target demographic. The target demographic has more guns. Like, I don't have an illegal firearm, and I have lots of legal firearms in my house, but I don't have any illegal firearms in my house. So I think even looking at things in terms of race is not only a kind of toxin, but when you put the power differential in there, one of the things that's happening is you're trying to help people on the lowest, the vulnerable people who have no power, And when you think like that, when you have a racial lens that you view the world, you're actually hurting the people you're trying to help. And I think there's no greater example of that than increase in Black homicide rates.
Yeah, yeah. I think what you're saying is an example of because the race is like a poison. It's like if they stand, you put stand in the engine. It's just the corroded thing. So I would say, I know it's one thing is not fair, but if you're a police officer, your job is it's like being a doctor. You have to look at each person as an individual, each case as an individual. It's like flipping a coin, heads or tails. It could go either way anytime. But but once you allow that fear of race, then because I could point to two examples. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, let me ask you a question because so I'm trying to think. So let's say let's give the people who believe this the benefit of the doubt, and let's see what these arguments could be, because I think this is really important. It's a kind of steel man. So you mentioned briefly the percentage of students who read at grade level, and you can go through like the Baltimore school systems. I think it's like 8% at math grade. Like you can just break those down, and African Americans outperform are underperformers. Heather McDonald has some great stuff about this in her recent book about SAT scores among various like African Americans versus white versus Asians. Okay, so let's say you're like, okay, this is a problem. There are only three explanations for this problem. It's cultural, it's genetic, or it's systems. There's no other explanation. I mean, I suppose you could give something crazy like, there's some metaphysical like thing, but those are the three explanations. Kendi wants to say that it's entirely systems. So he wants to discount culture entirely. But we also have a problem. I think I heard Glenn Lowry say, and I think he's right about this, even if every single black male is in prison who should be there because they had a fair trial, you still can't have such a large number of black males in prison. It's just terrible for the society. I agree with him. So for Kendi, then white supremacy culture is a system in his mind. So it's a system. Okay, so let's think through this now. So we want to get more black people reading up to grade level. How do we do that? So my question to you is, should that be the goal? Should we even be looking at people at all like that and saying, because that is a kind of targeting in a weird kind of way, like, should we even be thinking about proportional representation, or should we not be? Or should we just be thinking like, how do we make the school system the best, give everybody a public education at the first rate and then let the dice fall where they may? So I'll just go there and get your opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me because I don't really represent any group. I mean, I'm black, I'm Jewish, I'm white, got some Native American blood, I'm deaf. So what group do I represent? So, I mean, I'm just looking at myself based on black. If you want to look at the gene of black is subhuman, Jews are subhuman. That is the business sheet. So I think I sort of,
you're in the bottom of the totem pole, baby. We'll put you on the top of the totem pole. Anyway, go ahead. All you need to do is want to lop off your penis, and then you'll have another variable. Then you really be king.
Absolutely, but I represent, and here's another thing. My father, my great grandfather was born in slavery. My grandfather was born in 1900. He was the accident baby. So his brothers were like 18 years older than him, just being an accident baby. My father was born in 1946. So my point is, I'm very close to slavery. My mother come from the Holocaust, Jew going back. Oh my God, 5,000 years. I'm just going back. She's the first in America. So my point here is, we didn't really have a leg up. We didn't have any sort of advantage or stuff. I would ask my mom, how come those people live in a nicer house you have better job. My parents had better job. And he says, well, they should have an earlier start, but we'll catch up. So that was the idea, but my parents believed in the American principle. My community in the Bay Area back then believed in the American principle. I wrote an article about this for the Free Press about my definition, which is something that I was kind of coming up with. And what was very interesting was that nobody back then, Black, Jewish, deaf, allowed me to use any of my shortcomings as an excuse. It was like, yeah, so what? What do you want to do with your life? What do you want to become? So that is in American culture. So I don't think it's necessarily a Black culture or a Latino thing. It's this whole American culture. White people are suffering under this shoe. White people are wanting to allyship for their own identity. They're wanting into ideology for their own identity. So we're losing that American culture, which is what the film can call Killing America. We're losing the belief in the American principle, which say, hey, you know what? A parent, I see, I'm a parent, I've got 2 teenagers. I see parents make excuses for the kid. I see people at the car, I was talking to my son for 1 hour. My son, thankfully, is a smart kid, self-motivated. He's going into community college for his summer. He's going to become a junior. He wanted to go into community college. What am I doing? I don't care if the kid's in the classroom are 20 years old. I want you to get a better score than them on the psychology exam, on the business exam. Okay. But that's the role that we have to play in these kids' lives. And I think that was missing. Because, somebody was telling me, well, Frederick Douglass learned how to read as slavery. Both of my grandparents, third grade education, Jewish and Black, both learned how to read, both learned how to lift themselves up, both learned how to do things under enormous oppression. We have no excuses today. And we work, maybe you work 5 jobs, 3 jobs. I have about 4 jobs myself. I'm a filmmaker. I'm taking a risk. I don't have a steady job. I have like 2 or 3 other jobs to keep the money coming in. I don't have a lot of time, but I make time for my kid. I make time because why am I going to be a parent?
Okay. So, this is really important. So I just can't stress this enough. But if you say this, people are like, oh, you guys are conservatives. It's just what the data is. The data is that if there's an adult male in the home, the lack of an adult male in the home is a criminogenic factor. So kids are much more likely to go into violent or more broadly predatory crime. And it's extraordinarily important to have an adult male in the home. And we know that if you look at data about marriage rates are increasingly, marriage is becoming something of the upper middle and upper class now, with more people cohabitating in the lower classes. And the lack of adult males in the home on Black families are particularly high, and Asian families it's actually particularly low. Now, that can be a cause of a lot of factors, but I'm still kind of thinking to myself and stepping back, like, okay, so if you're a policymaker, I don't know what level it would be, maybe at the state level or something, or if you're an educational administrator and you're looking at these, should you even be thinking about this problem in terms of getting more quote unquote underrepresented groups, or diverse groups, which basically means Black people, but not Black women, incidentally, Black men? Should you necessarily be thinking about this in these terms? Is that the way we should be thinking?
Yeah, it's a tricky situation because
it is.
Yeah, because I would also say that under white families, the male out of the home is also a problem. Should increase
the numbers, for sure,
increase in everybody. So that's why
it's not racial.
Yeah,
for sure, 100%.
So I've been working for the last 5 years with Pastor Corey Bush on the south side of Chicago. He's the pastor there, and he is a Republican. And his thing of being a Republican is, I've got to reverse the bad idea. Because post-disease liberalism, as my father calls it, has given Black people everything without one thing, asking something of themselves. They never went to Black and said, you know what, you're down on your luck. we're going to let you stay in this home for 5 years. You'll be able to save every penny you have. If you make more money within the 5 years, you get to keep all that money. Then we'll help you with a mortgage so you should buy a house somewhere and become self-sufficient. We don't do that. We just give
Yeah,
and give and give.
yeah,
And when you
yeah,
give, you know how you get something for free? When you get something for free, it's not as special as something that you actually
yeah.
earn. And I can tell you, if into Pastor Bush in the South Side is building the community center, which he's been fortunate enough to raise $40 million for, it's a big challenge. It's a big question mark. Can he do it? So his idea is to target the young, the children, and start putting ideas of good faith in them, meaning the American dream, accountability, responsibility, very simple idea. You are your own individual. We will show you the pathways to opportunity, but you have to walk that path. If you fail, it's not because you're black, it's not because of what. You failed because of your stuff. And
Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, my grandparents on my dad's side both came to the United States. They escaped a genocide in Turkey, and they were Armenians. And neither one of whom neither my grandmother nor my grandfather when they came to this country spoke any English. They spoke other language. My grandfather escaped the genocide by shoveling coal on a Greek ship, which he later died of lung cancer. It was pretty intense. But I wonder, because we're a little bit past time. Do you have a little more time? A few minutes to talk? Is that okay? Yeah,
of
thanks.
course.
But I wonder. It seems to me that unless we're honest about the problems and we start talking about structural issues in the home, then it doesn't make any sense to try to fix it on the back end, right? Unless we talk about the lack of an adult male in the home, unless we talk about the fact that, and I think that the left is correct about this, the fact that there is an inherent unfairness about people who come from certain zip codes being denied better education, like the famous 90210. They have like this just completely insane high school, like totally insane. Like they have a planetarium in the thing. I mean, but yet other schools have, literal structural problems with the school, and that seems unfair. But unless we talk honestly about creating equality of opportunity, it seems to me to be a misguided conversation to talk about equality of outcomes, which is equity, which is what Harris, who could be president, keeps droning on about. Are you buying that? Is that, you think that's fair to say?
I mean, I do think, well, but the people who are saying that are the very people who are often oppressing these people. So Brandon Johnson in Chicago was tell black people, I'm your savior. I'm the one that's going to lead you to a better life. And then he removed some of the top high school. I mean, the story, but he did something with some of the top high school because there's a lot of black students, aspirational black students were going to, because it was unfair to the lower performing high school. The other black kids were stuck in. It was were stuck in. So in the 80s, in the 70s, or the 90s, you would have closed down those poor performing high schools, put the kid into the other high schools and so forth. Do we have a backward system? Do we have a society where the benevolent, where the do-gooders are actually the oppressor of the people? And that's what's happening even in the Bay Area. The school board member, she's an African-American woman. She goes to East Palo Alto. She says, I got you. I'm going to take care of you. It's not your fault. Now when you say that, it's not your fault. That's oppression right there. Because you just took away their responsibility. You took away their accountability. You took away everything. You put them into a race mode. So they wait for you to do something. And they wait, and they wait, and they wait. Well, Southside Chicago has been raided forever. That's why the pastor Corey Bush says, I'm done. I'm not ready anymore. I'm building this thing, and I'm going to fix this somehow. I'm a man of God. I'm a humble human being. I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to try. Because what is happening is not working. So that's why we have to Americans. Unfortunately, I blame the people, number one, because you guys have just surrendered too much responsibilities to other people. You surrender too much of your stuff to other people. You can't do that. You have to be selfish. Remember, the self-interest, the stuff when you make yourself better, when you're selfish, you work on yourself. Then you make yourself you're a strong human being. You can help other people. Weak people, such as the Kamala Harris, Brandon Johnson, cannot help anybody. They can because their identity is in race. They're bragging about the fact that they have more. Brandon Johnson bragging about the fact that he has more black people in his administration than ever. Who cares?
No.
Like, who cares? If Brandon Johnson just went to the elementary school that's down the road from the church where Pastor Bush is, and fixed it, and got 90%. It's something like 4% of kids are proficient in math in English. If he got them up to 90%, he would be an all-American hero. His name would be on the building. He'd be immortal. But they don't. And so
I'd love to. I'd love to see the rates. I just talked to Wilfred Riley 2 days ago, and I think he was telling me that it was 72%. I think this is right. 72% of black homes are fatherless, and 40% of white homes. Like, that's just shocking to me. That's just like completely shocking. I remember, I don't know if this may seem like a digression. If it is, I apologize. But I was Reed and I were at the airport. I can't remember where I was going, but we were going through the security office through the TSA, and there's a long line. And the TSA guy said to someone, let me see your license. And the person fumbles around for 5 minutes to find their license when they were just like literally waiting in line for half an hour. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, if I ever did that, my father would he would lose his mind that I wasn't like. So there is like, and I know that seems like a small thing, but I do think it's, parental responsibility, like having someone to say, like, pay attention, like do hard in school, work hard. And it's not that a woman can't do that. There is something about a single family that a person raised in one family that with one parent that makes that particularly difficult, especially if the people are like everybody or almost everybody have to work for a living, and they're going out and they're working a job or maybe two jobs to make ends meet, trying to pay their rent, trying to get meat instead of those little mac and cheese boxes for their kids. I just think that we're so long overdue for an honest conversation. I remember years ago I said to the I won't name the university, before all this stuff heated up, why don't we get someone who teaches police tactics here at this university, and we'll get somebody else who from the Black Lives Matter movement. And I mean, I'll happy to facilitate a conversation. We'll just have a conversation. Okay, so why do the police do this? Like, what's the reasoning for this? And what is the opposition to this? And when I told the dean that, they looked at me like I had lost my mind. Like, of course the police are evil. Like, of course they just doing this to oppress people, particularly black people or people who have no power. And my response was again to her, well, why don't we take a look at this? Like, why don't we? But I think one of the frustrating things to me, Eli, is that we're not willing to be honest about this. Like the superintendent and the people who responded to your film from, Killing America, like they're not willing to say, well, let's take an honest look at this. And do we have a problem with Jew hatred? Like, and if so, like, that's hideous. And nobody should be labor under that, live like that. Let's fix it. I want to be the guy who fixes things. We just don't have, the head of the Secret Service said, the buck stops with me. If, I don't want to put people on a slope roof, but she didn't take accountability. She should have resigned. At the least she should have resigned. Like, But there is a lack of accountability in the system.
Yeah.
Oh, I think. Oh, we just said she did this morning.
She did this morning, after she got pushed out.
Okay.
But I was the one thing though. What's interesting though is I have a black father. I'm saying that I don't play identity politics, but I have a black father. He had a black father. The values that we have came out of that black. It wasn't coming from the white side, but it came from the black side. But it was very American. And sure, I think a lot of what you're seeing here, that's why sometimes when I talk to black, we have that sense of familiarity. We kind of know this is similar world, similar value, but it got corrupted by the politics of the post-disease liberalism. It got corrupted by all of it, by all this white guilt, all this false black power, all of it, because that's why I have pride. So my own son, I'm telling him, no, you actually are getting this from the black side of your family because that's all they know. That's all they know. And but it is the value system that basically stays. You know what? We came from the bottom. We don't know how far back in slavery we ran. We don't know how we got here, but obviously we survived the middle passage. We got here somehow. We survived slavery, and we survived defecation. So you should do one thing, should be an American. So I tell my son, you have that responsibility. Should be an American. And that's the principle, that's the value system that we live by. And I think a lot of people, they've got this idea that America is evil. America is that. Yeah, no, America is not evil. The people were. That's a huge difference. People failed America. Segregationists failed America. Slave owners failed America. The DEI people failed America. But the rest of us who believe in America have to hold on to it because it's just an idea. And that's it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm gonna, if I may, I'm gonna tell you a quick little story. Years ago, when my son was growing up, I went to this. I don't know. There's this place called the Kennedy School in Portland. It's a really cool place. But my son was playing with my son's white. My daughter's Asian. She wasn't adopted yet, but he was playing at playing with this little black kid. And one of the things they were just little kids. They were goofing around. They went into the bathroom. They would shut the lights off for whatever reason. They had a light switch in the bathroom as opposed to like sensors or whatever. And when I found him, I was walking there with his dad, and this black kid's dad, who was black, freaked out at this kid. Like he lost it. Like he just freaked out. And I was so taken aback by his response. It just seemed to me so extreme. And then I went back and I talked to my buddy about it. And he's like, dude, you don't understand. It's like, if your white son does that, they say, oh, there's just a kid, screwing around. But if the black kid does that, he's like, oh, look at that, another black troublemaker. Like, look at that. Like, so, and the father's response to be, I mean, I wouldn't have, I'm just, it's not my personality style. I wouldn't have reacted so extremely, but I completely understand. Like, he doesn't want he's afraid of this trajectory that he sees for a lot of young black men. And he doesn't want that for his kids. And he's trying to, right from the get-go, he's trying to do something about that. And I really respected that. Like, the more I thought about it, I'm like, wow, okay. So this really is a kind of, like, it never occurred to me that either of my son would like join a gang. Like, it just literally never crossed my mind. But or be shot in some gang shooting or something. But I bet you that entered his mind.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, there's no doubt that we have stereotypes. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. And is it fair? No, it's not. And again, he should be in depth. I mean, that's why I kind of look at it as, well, we could talk about systemic racism. We could also talk about systemic hearing role. Like, I have to fit into this hearing role. I have to always do that. And the people would dismiss me on sight. They go, oh, he's deaf. I don't want to deal with that. So that is, there will always be that unfairness in the world, but it's just how you respond to it. That's the key.
Exactly.
Do you respond to it as a victim, or do you respond to it as, you know what, screw those people, screw that perception. If you want to come after my son and call him a troublemaker, I'm coming after you. Or something like that. I mean, there's ways you fight, there's ways you overcome. And that will always be the case in a cultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic country. We're always going to have these things. The question is, how do we handle these differences? And I think the Americans themselves, free of ideology, do a great job. Just think about how you go outside in the world. We drive in straight lines for the most part. We are respectful when we go to the grocery stores. We're not having race riots. We're only having race riots when ideology and reality collide.
Right.
If you think about that,
Exactly.
And so it's not about our common humanity is a lot stronger, I think. And you know what? I mean, like, I think if I was the father and I was told that son, I said, you know what, this is shame that you may have that situation, but you know what? This is how you handle it. This is how you move forward. This is how you put those people back in their place. Give him power.
Excellent, excellent. Wow, Eli Steele, what a pleasure to talk to you. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the film Killing America. I appreciate the work you do, and I appreciate you being a really strong voice for sanity. So thank you so much for what you do. Where can people find you?
I think probably the two best places would be Man of Steel with the E at the end, production.com, or on Twitter. I can't say the word X, but on Twitter at Hebro, HEBRO_Steele. And that has everything there. And Peter, it was such a pleasure to talk to you, and I really enjoyed this. And thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor.
Oh, my pleasure. The honor's mine. Killing America. Everybody go out and watch it. And thanks for Reed for manning the station today. And keep your camera on. And appreciate everybody to joining the show. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. This falls under the umbrella of my nonprofit, National Progress Alliance. Your generous donations keep us going and help fuel content like this. We truly appreciate your support. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.